Under pressure, the head of Yilan County is questioned for a second time as part of an investigation into alleged corruption. While former presidential candidate James Soong denies corruption allegations of his own. More than 20 years in the making, the government confirms it's building a new MRT line, but not everybody is on board. Plus, highlighting harassment, the art installation that's giving men an unpleasant yet eye-opening experience. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Yilan County head Lin Zumiao has been granted bail after being questioned for a second time by prosecutors investigating alleged corruption. It comes just weeks after Lin was named in a corruption case that involves dozens of others. Louise Watt reports.
Before dawn, Yilan County's chief Lin Zumiao arrived at the Yilan District Prosecutor's office to answer questions about alleged corruption. It's the second time she's been called in. Later, Yilan's chief prosecutor gave an update.
有关于这个宜兰县政府等机关人员涉弊一案分署的检察官在昨天，也就是22号上午，指挥法务部廉政署来续行调查，传唤拘提包括县长林姿妙等21名被告与证人，依法搜索6处有关的处所。
The chief prosecutor also said they were seeking the detention of County Chief Lin, her daughter, and the director of Yilan County's Agriculture Bureau.
本件经检察官讯问后，认为被告林姿妙、林某林以及县府农业处康处长等人涉嫌贪污治罪条例第6条第1项第4款的图利罪。 被告林姿妙另涉财产来源不明罪，均罪嫌重大，有事实足认有勾串灭证之余，且有羁押之必要，原向法院申请羁押禁见。
The investigation revolves around tax exemptions given to a property in an Yilan township in 2019 and changes to its urban development plans a year later. In mid-January, prosecutors named the county chief as a suspect after searching her home and questioning about 30 people. Lin, who's a member of the opposition Kuomintang, has maintained her innocence. On Tuesday, investigators searched Lin's official residence for a second time and seized a computer. A court set her bail at the equivalent of almost $29,000. The investigation continues. Patrick Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
One of Taiwan's most high-profile politicians, James Soong, has denied allegations of corruption. A leak from the Swiss bank Credit Suisse revealed Soong once had an account with as much as $15 million in it, leaving many to wonder where the money came from. Bing Wang reports.
A big name in deep water. James Soong, founder and chairperson of Taiwan's People First Party, has been named by reports of controversial accounts with the Swiss bank Credit Suisse. The bank has been accused of working with clients suspected of criminal activity and helping them hide assets totaling more than $100 billion. The report said Soong had an account with Credit Suisse between 1993 and 2010, with its highest balance reaching $15 million. The revelation left many in Taiwan wondering how Soong could have accumulated that much money.
平均公务员的话，大概是1个月3万块左右。那政务官大概是10万上下。也就是说，宋楚瑜如果他是透过合法的方式来取得这笔款项的话，他必须要累积286年的存款。
A longtime politician in Taiwan, Soong served as the head of the Government Information Office, the governor of the now dissolved Taiwan provincial government, and made unsuccessful bids for president 4 times, running as an independent and for the party he founded, the People First Party, or PFP. The high-profile Soong was previously a member of the Kuomintang, or KMT, but the party later sued him for allegedly embezzling millions of dollars in party funding. The charges were later dropped. Soong was also accused by the former foreign minister of France, Lin Zumiao, of taking kickbacks for the 1991 sale of 6 French-built Lafayette warships to Taiwan, signed when he was Secretary General of the KMT. Soong was never charged in relation to the case. The recent report on Credit Suisse has shown a fresh light on these past allegations. Soong has denied any wrongdoing.
从未参与任何拉法叶舰购买的会议、交涉、会谈。再有人或者是故意，或者是在那里抹黑我的话，那对不起，我一定诉诸于法律。
Soong's party, the PFP, were also quick to defend him, calling the report non-factual. Having weathered accusations of corruption in the past, Soong is confident the latest allegations will fall apart before making it to court. Alex Chen and Bing Wong for TaiwanPlus.
President Tsai Ing-wen's former Vice President Chen has joined her political party, fueling speculation about a return to politics. Chen was an independent when he served his term as Vice President, making this the first time he's joined the Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP. Reports surfaced on Tuesday that Chen joined the party late last year on invitation from President Tsai. Chen is also a former health minister and a globally renowned epidemiologist. He was instrumental in the early stages of Taiwan's COVID-19 response. Chen left politics when Tsai began her second term in May of 2020. After more than 20 years of talks, Taiwan has announced that it will build a new mass transit line connecting the capital of Taipei to the nearby city of Keelung. But critics are highlighting its hefty price tag. Jaime Ocon reports.
Almost 2 million commuters use Taiwan's Mass Rapid Transit System, or MRT, every day. The government hopes to move more people by expanding the network and facilitating access to more parts of Taiwan with a brand new train line set to connect both Taipei and New Taipei City with the coastal city of Keelung. Roughly 100,000 daily passengers from Keelung to the capital are expected, with double that number projected to travel to New Taipei. The new MRT line will add a total of 13 new stops towards the east of Taiwan and will bridge a connection to other trains at Nangang Station. But with a price tag of about $1.5 billion, the new line is drawing criticism from city officials.
我们是实际有在盖捷运的，这个我跟你讲，捷运的费用非常贵哦。那现在那个工程费用，我跟你讲，绝对比你想象的困难的。所以那个470几，我不太相信。
This MRT line has been debated for over 20 years. There have been difficulties in design and in managing the costs. With construction projected to take 10 years and service not to begin until 2032, some citizens are wondering if the new line will make much of a difference.
基隆的人也不是那么多啊，那现在的交通网已经够用了，你再花这么大一笔钱在这个地方，我觉得不妥。我觉得是可以有更好的运用。如果真的要的话，就是要把它设计进来这里，要不然真的一点意思都没有。
Despite local objections, the new plan is on its way to the cabinet for approval. As the central government finalizes the details, officials hope to get the public on board with the new line by the time it's completed. James Rayner and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is reporting 56 cases of COVID-19 on Wednesday, including just 2 local infections. With cases seemingly under control, the government says it could start easing measures, including shortening quarantine time and relaxing border restrictions. The government, meanwhile, is still working towards creating a low-risk environment in Taiwan by stepping up its vaccination drive. To date, around 83% of the public have received at least 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. 77% are fully vaccinated and 37% are boosted with a 3rd shot.
做到3件事，做的事情第一件还是尽量增加疫苗接种率，尤其是60岁以上的疫苗接种率。第二个，你要加快这个被诊断疾病的能力。那你要加快的原因就是你要提早给他药品，让他不要变成重症。所以呢，就是我们会在第一线的诊所啦，或者医院的门诊，会配备一些快筛，然后尽量帮来求诊的民众做快筛。如果他一旦被诊断是新冠肺炎，就给他口药，那他就在家里就好，不用去住院，除非他疾病变得严重，他才需要再去医院。
Systemic discrimination. That's how the Control Yuan, Taiwan's government watchdog, has described the remaining restrictions in the country's same-sex marriage laws. Taiwan legalized same-sex marriage in 2019, but as James Soong reports, legal loopholes still mean not everyone can walk down the aisle.
我跟你下跪好吗？我拜托你了，我拜托你成全我们跨国伴侣。
On a wet and windy Valentine's Day this year, LGBTQ activists outside Taiwan's Executive Yuan, or cabinet, protest restrictions on transnational same-sex marriages. Taiwan legalized same-sex marriage in 2019, but a new report by the Control Yuan, Taiwan's official oversight body, says that there are still 3 major obstacles impeding progress to full marriage equality. And they say government measures impeding that progress are tantamount to systemic discrimination. At present, citizens of countries where same-sex marriage is not yet legal cannot get married in Taiwan, so-called transnational marriages. Same-sex marriages between a Taiwanese and a Chinese national are also not permitted. And transnational same-sex marriages that take place in a third country are not recognized in Taiwan. That means, for example, a Taiwanese woman and a Malaysian woman who wed in the United States would not have their marriage recognized in Taiwan. That's because same-sex marriage is still not legal in Malaysia.
我们还用那么多的行政程序来卡他们哈，其实这也是让人家很泄气。然后现在又说要修法，一下子说依涉外民事法46条准用，可是现在又不行了，又要修两岸关系条例，所以我们觉得陆委会到底他的立场在哪里？ 到现在我们摸不清楚。
The report comes on the same day that the first Taiwanese-Japanese same-sex couple entered legal proceedings to have their transnational marriage recognized. Taiwan's legislature last year proposed amending the law that restricts transnational same-sex marriages, but the bill remains stuck in administrative quagmire.
那目前我们还在研议当中，我们希望未来这个相关的这个法律啊，能够
The report called on the Executive Yuan to relax residency restrictions for same-sex marriages registered overseas. In response, the cabinet said measures are still in the planning stage. Chris Ma and James Soong for TaiwanPlus.
Plunging temperatures in Taiwan's outlying islands of Penghu are having an impact on marine life. Ocean temperatures dropped nearly 3 degrees Celsius in just 2 days as the islands deal with the coldest weather in 6 years. You've probably heard of pigs in blankets. Now here's a turtle in a blanket. Rescue workers are rushing to save marine life in Penghu, and it's not just turtles. Fish and shrimp have also washed up on beaches this week. The cold temperatures have impaired their ability to swim. Penghu has also recorded the strongest winter winds in 10 years. The cold snap has come as a shock to these subtropical islands. Local media say that so far 3 people have died due to the cold weather. Coming up here on TaiwanPlus, Hong Kong declares war on COVID, announcing drastic new measures. Details after the break.
1947年228事件中，台湾人被迫害、被屠杀，但是台中嘛有一群青年组成武装27部队。 勇敢徛出对抗不义的政府。当年27部队部队长张永仁，竟被队长黄金岛、突击队长陈明忠以及食雪红的子弟兵蔡碧芬、陈英贤，70几年后现身说法，请大家来观看武装台中纪录片，见证台湾人这段恐怖的历史。
Welcome to the gym, Mando. 你想住哪里 Where do you want to live?
我要住哪里？看你表现啊！
那你家人呢？你家有几个人 How many people do you have in your family? 我爸、我妈、阿嬷、舅舅、大舅舅、小舅妈、大婶婶、小叔叔、小婶婶、小姑、他们的老婆，这样讲。And where in Taipei do you live? Wait, you know that? You've been to my place before. That must have been a very insignificant experience in my life.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Hong Kong's government has announced drastic new measures to beat back the pandemic and return to zero COVID. The city's COVID-19 caseload is growing by the thousands every day. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick reports.
Hong Kong is at war. That's according to top official Carrie Lam, who has announced a raft of harsh new measures to beat back the city's ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. Next month, all residents will be subject to compulsory COVID-19 testing every day. They will have to do 3 weekly PCR tests in that period and take daily rapid antigen tests in between.
早前都講咗咧，就會喺香港經過中央嘅助力之後咧，推行一個全民強制檢測嚇，英文叫 Compulsory Universal Testing 嚇，簡稱係 CUT， 希望切斷呢個傳播鏈啦嚇。咁呢個全民強檢係有法律效力嘅。事實上，今日第599J 章咧係賦權食物及衛生局局長可以發出強檢嘅指示嘅。其實每一日佢都發緊，如果唔係就做唔到呢啲圍封強檢啦。咁所以唔嚟強檢咧係有處罰嘅機制嘅。
Although Lam's government will use the law to enforce testing, she says they will not be bound by it. Asked whether DNA samples would be sent across the border to mainland China, something prohibited without express consent under local privacy law, Lam said that in a time of war, legal restraints need not apply to the government. As mainland experts pour into the city to help execute this war, the country's top epidemiologist says that the enemy is not just the virus.
最高嘅人權就係人嘅生命，係健康嘅生命。呢個同我哋一啲而家嘅西方有啲國家嘅理念係唔一樣。中國內地同埋香港特區對待 COVID-19 嘅指導思想咧，就係好明確，生命至上，健康至上。
But Hong Kongers on the front line of this battle are beginning to feel like cannon fodder.
我哋700幾萬人陪你哋一齊去做呢樣嘢，但你有冇諗過我哋感受？你睇下個城市而家似乜嘢？呢度話要停業，嗰度話要結束，即係我哋就唔使食噶啦，打工仔就嚟唔使做噶啦。有冇全面考慮過我哋先？冇啊嘛，冇你點樣做到一個清零咧？
The city has also closed all schools, bringing summer holidays forward by several months, and extended flight bans against 9 countries. An existing gap on outdoor gatherings of more than 2 people will now be applied indoors in restaurants as well, which must also close by 6 p.m. The restrictions are expected to drag the economy into negative growth for another quarter, and will likely sound the death knell for more small businesses.
咁啊變咗人流少咗，咁你做一個飲食嘅冇人流，咪即係冇生意咯。呢第5波咧，就係對我哋最大嘅影響啊！真係叫做冰河嘅時期啦。
Rocked by huge pro-democracy protests, followed by an unrelenting government crackdown, and then the pandemic, Hong Kong has spent years in a state of crisis. Once again, the city finds itself turned into a battleground for a contest between the Chinese and Western approaches to controlling COVID. And there is little the public can do but wait for the storm to pass. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Western nations, including the United States, the UK and members of the EU, have announced new sanctions against Russia. That comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized the independence of 2 regions of eastern Ukraine and ordered Russian troops into them as peacekeepers. The US sanctions target Russian banks and oligarchs. The targets of the EU sanctions include Russian lawmakers who voted to recognize the breakaway regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. Germany also announced that it is halting approval of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia. US President Joe Biden denounced Putin's actions as the beginning of a larger Russian invasion of Ukraine and called for a firm response to the move.
And if Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions. Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international law and demands a firm response from the international community.
Motorists in parts of Sri Lanka are facing long lines at gas pumps as the country runs out of fuel. A lack of foreign exchange has left Sri Lanka struggling to buy in much-needed supplies. Some drivers said they had visited multiple gas stations, unable to find any fuel at all. A shipment of 40,000 tonnes of diesel is waiting at the port, serving Sri Lanka's largest city, Colombo. The country is working to organise a $35 million payment to cover the cost of the fuel. But the government says that even with the shipment, there will only be enough diesel to last for 6 days. 4 women in El Salvador who were recently released from prison are calling for other women not to suffer the same fate. They were each sentenced to 3 decades behind bars in the Central American country, which has some of the strictest abortion laws in the world. The women were found guilty of aggravated homicide, though activists say they were wrongly imprisoned after suffering miscarriages. El Salvador bans any form of abortion. 12 other women are currently being prosecuted under similar circumstances.
También pues pedir la libertad de todas las otras compañeras que están privadas de libertad por esta misma causa. Que se haga posible pues que en este año también ellas puedan reencontrarse con su familia, poder recuperar el calor de su familia.
Street harassment is a fact of life for many women around the world. At the same time, it is something that most men never experience and often have no idea is happening around them. Artists in Belgium have created an art installation to let men walk a mile, or at least a hallway, in women's shoes. Eric Gao explains.
The stairs. The grasping hands. Whispered innuendo. These are just some of the forms of harassment that women face on a daily basis. One half of the population has to endure this, while most of the other half is largely unaware it is going on. An art project in Belgium is looking to change that by letting men experience what it's like on the other side. The installation is called Masculine Poetry. It is a short hallway equipped with sensors, projectors, and speakers. Inside, visitors are subjected to leers, whispers, and other street harassment. It is an unpleasant experience, but an informative one.
J'ai l'impression d'avoir vécu une semaine ou des mois de harcèlement, de passage dans la rue, dans la peau d'une femme, dans la peau de quelqu'un qui est tout le temps observé, jugé, qui soulève des réactions.
For men, it can be eye-opening. For many women, it's a familiar portrayal of what they are regularly subjected to.
C'est l'enfer. Et à la fois rien de surprenant en fait. Il y a quelque chose de l'ordre de l'habitude et voilà, je trouve ça intéressant de le mettre en installation. Je crois que c'est intéressant d'avoir le regard des hommes là-dessus.
Masculine Poetry is the brainchild of 3 artists. 2 of them, Natalie Aaron and Frederick Duroux, are married, and they were inspired to create the installation by the experiences of their daughter while she grew up in France. Aaron says the installation will give men a more visceral understanding of the issue, better than other forms of raising awareness.
Les flyers, les affiches, les films, on reste spectateur. On peut ne pas être super concentré sur ce que l'on voit, ce que l'on lit, des affiches, etc. Par contre, si on le vit, on rentre à l'intérieur, on est poursuivi et on le vit vraiment avec les pulsations du cœur. Là, ça rentre dans notre corps, dans notre chair. C'est une vraie expérience. Là, ça fait la différence.
The installation isn't just highlighting the street harassment issue for men.
Donc nous, on a fait ce projet pour les hommes et on s'est rendu compte que ça avait énormément d'impact sur les femmes aussi. Donc les hommes, c'est prise de conscience. Pour les femmes, c'est libération de la parole. Et je pense que ce serait intéressant de faire passer des adolescents dedans, parce que c'est à cet âge-là qu'ils apprennent ce comportement. Et voilà, ça permettrait de leur faire une prise de conscience. Et donc en sortant, il faut faire des débats entre hommes et femmes pour que le monde change, qu'il change de comportement.
This police officer agrees more awareness is needed as law enforcement often can't stop this behavior.
C'est vraiment une première réflexion, c'est de me dire je crois qu'il y a très peu de victimes qui osent venir déposer plainte. Dans mon rôle de policière, je me dis aussi, je me mets à la place de mes collègues qui sont en patrouille, dans les combis, dans la rue. Je ne suis pas sûre que c'est faisable pour nous d'avoir comme ça un constat si flagrant de ce genre de choses, donc de faire des flagrants délits, d'avoir des preuves de ce genre de phénomène.
Masculine poetry is an unpleasant but eye-opening experience. Hopefully, more men will brave the exhibition and come out the other side with a deeper understanding of street harassment. Rick Yi and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese jujubes are set to hit supermarkets in Paris for the first time as the city of Kaohsiung seeks to win over France with its crunchy green fruit. The city in southern Taiwan is the country's largest jujube producer and also exports the fruit to Hong Kong, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore and Palau. Jujubes were first exported to the Netherlands last year. France represents the next step on the road to European date domination. The jujubes that will go on sale in France are of the Shirley variety, whose flavour is described as the perfect balance between sweet and sour. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Finally today, we leave you with some images of the opening ceremony of Dubai's Museum of the Future. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.